So,
But I can't believe,
Minnesota cities is pretty much.
you know, you can't hire somebody at, say, $40,000 a year to do that job to get back 10,000. I understand that, but it's still, that's taxing all of us.
When Women was mayor, I was fighting all the time. So I had to know everything about his job and his, what his actual powers were as mayor because he way overexceeded his powers.
Can we bring this to order?
I think we can bring it to order, you think?
Yeah. We only got 2 items.
So you think? I mean, I have a few things that probably would be nice to talk about if you guys don't.
Dude, I haven't ate since 5 o'clock this morning.
It's 5 this morning?
Huh? What'd you say?
It's 5 this morning?
Yeah. Told you, I got home and I dropped my van off and changed clothes and came here.
Hurry here, you should have just ate.
No, then it's more time and more time and more time.
He never let anyone
Well, okay,
talk.
let's make it.
Just a yes or no vote, very low.
Pretty much. I was.
That's how he pushed his agenda through for many, many years. That's why everybody called him King George. And that's what changed this whole console.
Yes, it is.
It changed this whole console over. I mean, the pendulum swung completely up, so. Right. And I don't mean to make your job sound less significant. I mean,
No, that's the truth. No, I was just kidding.
I know you were, but I feel bad when I say it, but so many people think that the mayor, runs the finances and runs the city, and they don't. It's just so crazy. Huh? Right.
You guys ready to start over there? Okay, you're waiting for me?
Take care. Good to see you here.
Thank you for coming.
She's gonna make a great council member.
All right, if we can get a motion to come out of recess here for the committee of the whole meeting.
Motion to come out of recess.
I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Holmgren. Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. So we're back into discussion on E5 Dolan Avenue and Main Street. And so Josie, I think you were kind of making a point when we walked away from that meeting. Do you remember what it was?
I was sharing that there is currently no parking between Heritage Boulevard and Main Street on the west side of Dowling. And then we already knew that there was no parking on the south side of Main Street between Dowling and 65.
Is there a cutaway section there for parking? Or could there be like a cutaway section for parking on the south side of Main Street between Dowling and 65 there? I know now there's a sidewalk. I thought there might have been a cutaway section for parking, or maybe that's just the sidewalk kicks back in.
There's not a bump out.
Could we do a bump out at the next time we resurface that road?
We'd have to look in to see if we have right-of-way and where exactly that lies in the property. I'm not sure that is a wider road, so we'd have to look into that. So you're talking past the apartment garages on Main Street?
It would be behind the apartment garages, so from Dowling Avenue over to, I guess, even just the end of the property line for the property that we're talking about right now on the south side there. I know there is a sidewalk there. I mean, that sidewalk is not used ever because it doesn't go to anywhere. So would it just make sense to knock out the sidewalk and put a lane for parking there instead of a sidewalk?
We can definitely look into that.
Okay, otherwise, can you tell me if you know who owns the lot to the north side of 108 Main Street? Is that owned by the apartment building, or is that owned by the people that own the new building?
The Mujwoods, I believe, own the lot to the north of the site we're speaking of, so the people to the building just straight to the north.
Okay, so the apartment building?
Yes.
Ah, shoot. I was gonna suggest maybe we do a small dirt parking lot there, but I guess that's probably not a feasible option if they'd have to buy that property.
Yeah, she's correct. I did pull it.
Okay.
I mean, is Main Street not wide enough to have parking on both sides of that spot?
There's no way that would make it way
It is
worse.
definitely wide enough to have parking on both sides. However, if my mind serves me, I believe there was a complaint for someone who was parking a trailer along there, so then it was city council's purview to, they wanted to post it no parking, but it is definitely wide enough.
Well,
I think that might make the visibility worse unless we were to have it like halfway down the street. Because right now, you're mostly fighting when you're going Dahlin south towards Broadway or south, or getting onto Main Street either which way, because all the traffic is all, on that north side of the road. So if we allowed it on the south side, then you might actually have obstructions both ways too. So,
But, you compare what the building that was there before to what's there now, it's 3 feet setback on both sides.
well, that doesn't affect the parking at all, though.
I
It doesn't
thought
change the
Because they
parking.
were having problems.
well,
with
the site, as far as the engineer is concerned, I mean, Jason said you can see there, I mean, it's, the triangle, the site triangle is good there. so-
Without vehicles
but-
parked there.
But there's already no parking there already.
But even
they-
with vehicles parked there, the line of sight is greater than what is required due to the yellow markings not allowing parking.
I don't believe that on that one. I think that needs to be
Have you ever seen anybody
rechecked.
come off of Railroad Avenue turning to go onto Dahlin?
Yeah, I drive the road every day, right there.
Have you seen how people do that?
Yeah, it's weird. The whole street is
No,
weird
they
there.
they come flying out and they shoot across at a kitty-cordy angle. It's not just, it's like, Councilman Holmgren and I were talking, people drive like they're nuts around here. Jeff Johnson brought it up. It's like people think this is the Indy 500 around here. And he's not far from the fact and the truth on that.
That's even more reason for us to be concerned about this intersection, I think. I drive it every single day, and I can tell you with absolute certainty is an unsafe intersection with the way the parking is laid out right now.
When we discussed this earlier, Chief Myers said he hasn't had any incidents that he recalls at an intersection. I'm sure there could be something in the future as it gets busier,
But he
I don't
also
wanna
said he
take
knows
any-
it's an issue.
I don't want to take any parking spots away from that business. I mean, we kind of gave him our word that they would have spots. There's nowhere else to park. I mean,
I think
You know
there's
how
plenty of room over there to park. You got the dirt lot over here, there's a whole street to park on. You can park on the,
Well, my
the east
question was
side of
do we want to open parking on the other side of Main Street and then push that,
push it further away from the intersection.
Yeah, and then push this side a little further away. I mean, even if it's just to open it along that section of road on Main Street, it doesn't have to be all of Main Street, but, I mean, I guess before that, anyway, it already is open on both sides.
I got another solution. Make it a 4-way stop. You have to stop there then. And if you can't stop, I don't care what we did. If you don't stop and you run the stop sign, there ain't nothing you can do about that.
I like the 4-way.
That's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad
Do
idea.
you remember what Josie's talking about? I mean, why there was no parking on that other side, or? No, I don't remember. But did you think it was because they had issues with people parking there, and then you thought?
Oh, there was, yes, I remember that semi-issue. I got the same thing problem in my neighborhood. A guy parks with his trailer, you can't even see it, and he shouldn't even be parking it on the street. The street is half as wide as what this is where I live. I've always said there should be parking only on one side over on my street, because you can't meet two cars, can't meet like this if there's people parked there. You have to stop and let the other person go by. Main Street's, I think really the simple solution, put a 4-way stop and we ain't gonna deal with it.
I think that's a good idea.
Maybe a two-prong, who owns that little square piece, southwest corner? Just south of the parking lot, there's a tree there. There's a little,
I think the city owns that.
what about making that more accessible? I don't know what's under that tree and how close they can park in front of that business, but what about giving them a little bit more room on that land to be able to park? So it'd give a couple more spots. I know how people are lazy and don't want to walk a long ways to go to a business. It would just
Well,
give an extra spot or two right across from the business.
I mean, I can't say if they would park there, but, over, parking north a little bit. But I don't see that full. I mean, I think people have been parking on the street before they've been going across the street.
Okay.
I have
see
seen it
one or
full.
two
I-
over there.
I've seen it pretty full when they have big events.
Yeah, maybe with the painting.
Yeah, with the sign stuff, I've seen it, I mean, it's not all the way full up, all the way to the church, obviously, but I've seen 7, 8 cars in there before.
And Steve's got a good point. I think
Yeah.
a four-way stop might, because then it kind of solves the problem for people coming off a railroad too.
Right.
Like you said, at an angle and, zipping across there. And that solves what you were worried about, was that the dog leg too. I mean, you said,
Right.
mentioned that same thing earlier,
That would
so.
solve that.
And I just,
What'd you say?
speed. And I did want to say that there must have been an accident or something happened on Heritage where all the traffic was redirected down to Main Street, and trying to cross that intersection with all that traffic coming through, that was like Russian roulette, and you can't see at this intersection. So I have a feeling when we do this road construction project, it's gonna be awful for that little area right there, so getting ahead of it is definitely wise.
I actually think it needs a four-way stop sign there. I think that's
I
a
don't
good
think that's
idea.
gonna hurt a thing.
Not at all.
We got a four-way right out here, same thing, right out here on Main Street, what's the difference? I'm telling you, I'm a huge firm believer, stoplight, stop signs, control traffic. I don't care what else you do, stoplights and stoplights and stop signs, control traffic.
How about roundabouts?
Roundabout slows it down, so you don't have a high-speed crash, you still have crashes.
Too bad a roundabout won't fit, huh? Just kidding.
I mean, that's just my total personal opinion.
I'm on board with, if you guys want to do a four-way stop there, I
Can
think that.
we talk with the business? Maybe
Yeah, and
they
see.
haven't, no.
I don't
Well,
think they're gonna
like
care
that.
either way.
I think that they would like that because it forces people to stop right at their business, you know what I mean? It's, you have to stop there,
And that jog, it's definitely gonna help people make that jog a little slower and a little better.
yeah. I don't,
How does that work
See
for
how it could be a
how does
bad
that
thing.
work for a semi-truck taking a right off of Railroad onto Main Street? There's not enough room to make the full turn to stop, so that wouldn't work. They'd be stopped halfway in traffic on the westbound lane. And you have semi-traffic, there's at least 3 a day going to Auto City Glass right there.
If they're going to Owl City Glass, they'd be better off going straight across.
Yeah.
And then going behind the old hardware store.
But I'm just saying, it wouldn't
why would
work,
a stop sign change that corner?
because you can't take a right and make the full turn, you'd be halfway in traffic. I don't think it's long enough to fit between those 2 blocks there to fit an actual full trailer.
He'll wait for that stop
Approximately
sign
70 feet.
for the cars to get through that stop sign before he makes his turn.
So he'd run the stop sign.
Oh, you're saying after he makes a turn?
Oh, I'm saying, I see what
Yes.
you're saying, because you're
Yes.
gonna have cars sitting there at the stop sign on the other side, yeah, okay.
I don't think it's an issue.
I don't think so either. They could
Not
even
enough
always,
traffic.
Yeah, I mean, you deal all the time, when you're driving a semi, you deal all
Oh,
the time
right.
with stuff that's not made for you to really be there.
Okay.
And they, typically, I mean, they would take a truck route, and I don't know, I suppose they would go that way, I
That
guess,
is the
but,
truck route. They
Yeah.
come up to the railroad and Main Street and take a right, and then they go back to 65 that way, because they came from 65. You know, they're not gonna turn around from
yeah,
Auto
come down
City.
Palomino or something over to Railroad and up, huh?
Yeah, they're not gonna, there's nowhere to really turn around, so they just continue their flow, go forward, take a right onto Main Street from Railroad, and then you have the situation where they're not gonna be able to make a full right-hand turn and make a stop. Well, if we don't care, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, even now, though, you still have people that are they're gonna sit there and they're gonna wait because they're trying to take a left turn, you got oncoming traffic coming too, that they have to wait for, you know, it's just,
The people that make regular deliveries there, after 1 or 2 times, if they have an issue, they'll go a different way.
That's fair. Would it be possible to ask if they would, if we could maybe allow them to park on that city property and just or yellow off an extra 20 feet in front of the door and just not do the stop sign?
I think their stop sign would be a better venue.
Yeah.
Cheaper venue. Post, sign, done. 2 posts, 2 signs, you're done. Because there's already stop signs going this way, it's just going this way. And like you said, it'll slow down the speed.
Can we get the stop signs with the blinky lights?
At least with a flag.
That ain't a
to
bad
start-
idea.
To start with.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, but everybody, it sounds like that's a consensus?
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
So this will go before the next city council meeting for approval to place a stop sign. I'll have just the engineer review it for MUTCAD standards. I do believe that,
Sure.
I do believe that it is far enough from the railroad. It's about 70 feet from the intersection that you're talking about at Railroad Avenue.
It's tight.
So, but.
So where do we put a stop sign on? How do we place that? Because the business is right there.
Same way
And
you
there's
do
a
all
s-
stop
and there's a
signs. They
sidewalk.
put it right on the sidewalk. That's where they put them.
Okay, I suppose.
Do we have extra stop signs?
Jason will fill us in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have spare stop signs on hand.
So we'll add it to the January 6th meeting, so there could be action if warranted, but then more information from the engineer, just for the full discussion, and then we'll be ready to place, right after that.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right, Luke, I think you had the next one, E6, police gas rewards.
Yes, so I was talking to some people at the police academy actually, and we had the idea, or the question, I guess, is there a way for the police to get rewards? I know Quick Trip offers, 4 or 5 cents off a gallon or whatever it is. I know a lot of businesses have their own rewards. I thought it might be an interesting way to, maybe we could say, hey, we saved $2,000 on fuel this year. We'll use that $2,000 to go towards a police appreciation event. Cost us nothing. So I thought that might be an interesting way. Now, I don't know how that works with, I don't think there's no favoritism on gas stations, but obviously there's gonna be, better deals at better gas stations, and I don't know how we approach that, but I think it'd be a good way to, save some money, and they're gassing up all the time. I don't know how much they use, but I'm sure it's a fair amount throughout the year.
Well, I mean, you could, not just the police department, but you could say Public Works and
Sure.
all the city vehicles, really, potentially could do that, I suppose.
So we do already do that.
Yeah, okay.
With Wex Bank, gives them the freedom to actually go to multiple locations. It's like 99 or 95% of all locations in America that sell gas are part of Wex Bank. They give us good internal controls, great reporting. I know who filled up gas, I know where it went, I know what the mileage was, all of those things, that's all already come, I can retrieve that in Excel format anytime, which is particularly good. Probably the most common form of theft for a city is fuel theft, right? Somebody goes to, don't have good internal controls in place, somebody goes to fill up the lawnmower and they sneak a couple gallons into their truck or something like that, right? So those types of internal controls that you get with Wex Bank are really good. And I would have to double check where we're at with rewards currently, but I seem to recall that once upon a time we were getting like 3 cents a gallon. And when you're applying that against all of our stuff, including when Public Works takes the lawnmowers over and things like that, they have to report that. They're putting it in the lawnmower, which lawnmower, all those kinds of things. You've got your own, 4-digit ID, so I know who was the one that put that fuel in there. Also gives me reporting to be able to monitor miles per gallon. So this is one of those deals where it's like if you are going to commit a theft, you're going to have to keep that scheme going for an awfully long time, and any financial fraud always has the problem of winding it down, right? So Wex gets into all of that kind of stuff. So if there was a better reward program out there, it would have to be pretty substantial to justify giving up on those internal controls.
So I don't know how that works exactly, but is it necessarily an either or? So at Quick Trip, you can swipe a rewards card and then you use your credit card and you can get rewards on both. I do the same thing. So I swipe my Quick Trip's reward card and then I use my credit card and I get 3% cash back on my credit card on gas purchases. So you get double the rewards, if that makes sense.
Well, how do you turn those rewards into something you can use as far as like
Well-
cash?
Well, so Quick Trip, it gives you a certain amount of cents off a gallon if you swipe your card. So you see that savings on your credit card statement, because if it's $2.71 and you get 4 cents off, now you're at $2.66 or $2.67 per gallon. So you're realizing savings there as well. So you're kind of,
We could look into that. I would be surprised if Wex Bank, being as broad as it is, if double dipping on points isn't already excluded, but I'll look into it. And
Okay.
if they're willing to let us double dip on points at Quick Trip or Casey's or wherever, then yeah, that sounds great.
okay, so is that
As long as I can keep you redeeming it for free fuel,
right.
not coffee or something like that. But
Is that like a credit card?
yeah, so every vehicle has an assigned card, and then every person has an assigned number. And so you have to give all that information. So when you fill up, you have to actually enter in the mileage on the vehicle that you're using it for as well.
Okay.
So that I have all that reporting. I don't have to actually go look at any vehicles. I can pull all that reporting remotely at any time.
Okay.
And since you brought it up, I know there's that Get Upside. I
Yep.
don't know if you've ever used that. or-
There's none of those that are active in
Not in
ISATI.
ISATI.
A lot of it in
I
Cambridge and
think
this
they're-
metro,
they
but,
call it as one. Quick Trip doesn't do Upside. That's why I've never used it, because I mostly go to Quick Trip. But as he brings up, the same thing with our company, the same thing with the fire department. I'm issued a employee ID number, and when I insert my company credit card in for gas, I have to put my mileage down, and I have to enter my employee ID number. And trust me, he calls me and he says, dude, you go through more gas than anybody. I said, yeah, what do you expect when you got me driving halfway across the state every day? So, I mean, he knows how much gas I use. So they know, and he's even gone out, because some guys were just punched in 11111 as the mileage. And then you'll go out and look at their van and say, that ain't your mileage. You need to, you need to have an accurate mileage.
Yeah, and Luke's not saying get rid of what we have.
oh,
you're
no,
just saying
the
add-
supplemental thing, I thought it might be interesting to
can-
pursue.
What happens right now? That's what I want to know. These
if
guys
they-
go, because I mean, think about that, because I wonder if our guys go now, are they going to Quick Trip and then they've got their rewards cards and they're, because if nobody's getting the rewards, somebody might as well. I could see that,
Usually a Quick Trip.
I don't know if that's happening now, and then we're gonna
Of course they are.
we're gonna take that away from the guys that are using it now. I mean,
can't.
that may be a possibility too, so.
You can't.
Probably shouldn't have said
Travis
that out
does it
loud. I don't
right
think they're
now.
doing that.
I shouldn't have said that out loud. I'm just theorizing. I'm not saying that anybody would. I'm just.
It would be smart, I don't know, that's,
I mean, it's sitting there and nobody's using it, so I mean, I can see.
Suddenly they'll all start doing that on December 18th
Oh,
simultaneously.
yeah. So now I've given them the idea, I guess, huh?
I just thought it might be an interesting thing to look into, because we probably do use a lot of fuel. Do you know how much fuel we use as a city every year? Any rough guess? I was looking online, and somewhere online it said 1 to 2 gallons per day for a cop car. I was like, that can't be right. It's gotta be way more than that, like 10, 15 at least. Yeah.
Ballpark, I mean, I see a lot of invoices and things, but ballpark, we pay WEX probably about $4,000 a month on average. So you could multiply.
1,500 gallons?
Yeah, multiply that back, and that's, now, of course, if Matt's got 3 snowstorms in the middle of January, that's gonna bump up a lot, because but.
George Ryder goes through that a week.
Ballpark.
Month, usually.
Okay, so you're looking at probably 15,000 gallons a year, maybe roughly.
Something in that ballpark.
Okay, well, that could add up.
I have a few questions about the Quick Trip. So do we buy a majority of our fuel through Quick Trip?
I don't know, with Wex Bank, you can go to just about any location and get the discount price and the reporting and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
I asked
Okay,
this
next
question at
question.
the police academy, and they said they basically go wherever is the most convenient for them for that time, and they kind of mix it up.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the other thing, is that I know my guys do at least use all 4 businesses in town. And now, I mean, we can look into it, but let's say you tie into a reward, how do you go to the other 3 businesses and say, well, sorry, your reward ain't as good, so we're.
They need to offer a better reward. It's competition,
I know,
baby.
So that's just something to think about.
Yeah.
You're gonna pick the winner of that race, not based on their fuel price.
I was gonna reach out to Quick Trip Corporate and see if they have any sort of discount program for police. I thought that might be an interesting idea, but I didn't know if we already did all this, so I wanted to bring it forward first.
Yeah.
I have a few more questions. So how much diesel do we buy a year? Do you think? How many gallons?
Well, I can tell you during a snowstorm, we'll go through a full tank of fuel
Okay,
for diesel. So, I mean, hard to say with the sweeper, because that's off-road fuel. The loader is off-road fuel. The grader is off-road fuel. So the 3 plow trucks are mainly used in the wintertime. And like Mike said, but during a snowstorm, at the end of that snowstorm, they're filling every truck up.
do they have the check and balances that I just heard about? They have to write in their mileage and employee ID and all that. I think it would be worth, Mike, Quick Trip has a rewards program. It's called through Mudflap, and what you do is you set up in theory, what you would do is set up the city credit card with Quick Trip through Mudflap, It's an app you can have on your phone, and you're gonna average at least 30 to 90 cents a gallon off. I average 30,
Mud
but
Flap's
during the
huge.
summer months, sometimes I'll get up to 90 cents a gallon off. I mean, that's a huge savings if you're using a lot of diesel. And then the other thing is about the rewards, even if it's a city card, I don't see any problem with the city employees or the police department or whatever using a rewards card, because when you pay for your fuel, it doesn't matter who paid for it, you can still swipe that card and be able to use that to buy a can of
Coffee.
pop or, you know, a snack after it builds up a while. I don't see why we should have any control over that
That would-
whatsoever.
That would only be appropriate if the city is otherwise not allowed to have that reward.
Really?
Otherwise, if the city could have that reward and you have otherwise taken it from the city, that is misappropriation of taxpayer dollars. That is, even $1, that's a felony.
So what you're saying is if the city is buying 50 gallons of fuel and getting a discount, but if it was a regular company and they were getting it, the employee would still be allowed to have a rewards card and be able to swipe it at that time, even though it's not his money. But you're saying because it's a city, it's a different standard?
If your action has precluded the collection of a benefit for the city, yeah, that's misappropriation, that's a felony at $1, not at 1,000, at $1.
So
So
hopefully they're
that's
not.
state statute.
So, yeah, to be clear,
Okay.
any public works listening,
So what I said earlier, they better not be doing that, is what you're
if
saying.
the city could have it, and you have deprived the city of
Yeah,
that
okay.
reward, yeah, that is misappropriation of dollars.
Well,
That
then
you
what
can't do.
about outside the box, letting them swipe them rewards and using those rewards once a year for the police department, going to Quick Trip, buy $100 worth of whatever to add to the event?
Then we should quantify the reward, and that should be line itemed in the budget.
Exactly.
This is be the same
Even
as.
though
this
it
is-
didn't
this-
cost a thing?
Correct.
Okay.
But it was a benefit, there was a benefit denied the city, though. That's the thing. So it's to be the same as, for example, every single person in Public Works knows very, very well that when they go to Menards and they get an 11-cent rebate, you better believe you're bringing that back. And if
Well,
you
that-
don't, you're,
That I can understand, because it's actual
Right.
cash, you know,
Right, I get
essentially,
it
so,
too.
but
the
it's the same idea, yeah.
The rewards, even if you've never if you never see a rebate or you never see the cash, that is the same value.
Mm-hmm.
That is still misappropriation. That is a felony.
That's a rude awakening.
That's, I just,
I mean,
it's a
private
bummer
sector-
seeing not an employee or the city taking advantage of that, of somehow getting it.
Private sector, anybody, any company can have whatever rules they want on that, and that's not a big deal. That's a private deal, and that doesn't matter. But if you deny the city the benefit like that, and the city could otherwise have had a $1 benefit or whatever it is, yeah, you cannot deny the city of that. And if we want to reward PD at the end of the year based on those savings, then that should be line item. We should quantify the reward, line item, and out, and make it explicit that, Travis, this is money to be used for this, not a casual decision.
And I'm seeing that as well. If we have that money for that, then we can not levy for the extra money for the party. So that's a direct impact on our taxpayers. They pay less,
That is exactly how you are supposed to understand that statute that
Correct.
says any misuse of public funds or depriving a city of that reward. That's why it's a felony.
Is swiping that card a violation and not using any of it? So could they in theory swipe that card for a whole year, turn it into the city at the end of the year, all the employees in the police department, and then pull them all together and then use them for something?
If the internal control measure that I put in place was to reconcile those accounts on an annual basis, that would be fine. That's not the internal control that I would put in place on that.
That's a good idea, though.
That would leave someone an opportunity to commit fraud for way too long.
Okay, you don't want to put anybody in that position. Oh, I forgot my wallet today. Oh, I got this. I could go in and get, I
No,
see what
and
you're
I'm
saying.
very
You don't
clear
want to
with
put them in
every-
that position.
And I'm super clear with everybody, every
Makes
time they
sense.
get a gas card or a purchasing card, a credit card, that if you do make a mistake, you better come find me immediately.
Okay. All
And
right.
if you do cover it up, sorry, you're in big trouble.
I'm
Even if it
starting
was
to
an accident.
understand it.
That's how it is.
So I think if you guys can look for creative ideas on any of that, I think that would be
Yeah.
sweet.
Yep.
Cool.
Is that, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I mean, if the city or if, like you said, Quick Trip has some kind of a fleet.
I would bet they would probably have
Deal or-
something. And the Mud Flap app is great. You just have to have a DOT number to use it. And that's, I mean, you guys have all that. So I think that's a big one a lot of truckers use. And I know I've used that and Get Upside when I go on long trips, long hauls. And you save a lot. It adds up, 20 cents a gallon, 30 cents a gallon when you're putting in 100 gallons,
Yes.
Yeah, it does add up quick. Okay, well, yeah, that will be interesting to see what they come back with. Let's see, so we're moving on, old business, code enforcement. So this was one, it says, it's attributed to me that I had brought it up, but I don't remember what we were even talking about. Old business and code enforcement?
Were we talking about having, code enforcement?
Yeah. I was trying to remember what I had,
We did approve the, your neighbors have to be the ones that report you for a code
maybe that's what it
violation.
was.
Is that
That's
it?
what I thought.
is that what it was? I think so.
Yeah, and I wasn't at that meeting. but
Yeah, no,
was
I-
following up on that.
Yeah, that was what we were talking about there, and I don't know if we've ever done anything else with that, or where
That's
we
where
were.
that's the direction we went a long time ago.
I thought
No,
so.
we reached out to the attorney just on
Okay.
that piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
As far as only allowing the neighbors to be the reporting party. And he did reply to it. And the issue you have with that is under chapter 13, you can't divulge that data on who reports, but if it's only your neighbor that reports by de facto, now you're divulging who reports. So that was kind of an interesting spin on that. Let's see.
I thought we talked about someone within like a certain foot line, so like a circumference, and we had you maybe look at, I think we asked you to look at what an
I wasn't
appropriate
here, so,
circumference
yeah.
might, we asked somebody to look at what an appropriate circumference area would be that would encompass, a handful of people, so you can't, profile who it
I guess
was.
from the enforcement standpoint, it'd be easier for you to go and like get rid of the nuisances you don't want enforced rather than limiting who can call in the violation. Maybe, if you're trying to lessen the nuisance complaints, just lessen the amount of nuisance violations are, that'd be a lot easier than trying to figure out, can you call and why, when you call about that person, like, well, you're outside of the 150-foot rule, or you're not the next door neighbor, that's gonna
Yeah.
cause more of a headache than
Well,
just not
I think when I
having
originally brought it up, the idea was they had to have property that was, actually bordering, like, had to be a neighbor, which, I mean, I guess in some cases might only be one person, so then that would be accurate for what the attorney said, is that,
Right.
well, then you can't hide who it was, so.
And in theory, just generically, when you look at like public nuisance enforcement, right, so the nuisances are considered public nuisance, right? That's a definition of it. Well, if you're only allowing the neighbors to complain, now it's only private nuisance then, right? I mean, just by definition, not saying it's right or wrong, but a public nuisance is to the public. If it's just a neighbor complaining, that's more of a private nuisance.
Yeah, I mean, the goal was to try to make it to where once we have somebody gets complained about, then they drive around town and complain about 10
Which
other
happens.
people.
Yep.
Which absolutely happens, was to try to get rid of that, but,
Or think about targeting, if you don't like someone, or if someone is, I don't think that's right. What if you spoke up about somebody and now all of a sudden you're the target of complaints? I think we should seriously look at the foot number and see if we can figure that out, because if there's somebody that lives across town and they're saying they're sub-public nuisance, but not a single other neighbor is complaining, that's,
Agree on.
I really think we should set a foot number on it and limit it.
The one thing I want to add is to kind of piggyback on that, though, the reason why we can make a code enforcement city code is because we're declaring there's a public nuisance, like generally, a public nuisance. So if we don't want to, limit it to only, if we want to limit it to people who are just complaining, you're saying that it's a public nuisance to some people, but the only way we can do enforcement of things like that is because we've declared it a public nuisance. So it really does go to what Travis is saying, is that, well, then maybe it shouldn't be a nuisance.
sure.
So we would have to look at every single item and say, hey, this shouldn't be a nuisance. Like, what if somebody has 6 cars versus 5? Are we gonna change every single rule for the city, or do we just say only the neighbors can complain? You have to live with your neighbors. You know, and to me, if it's not bad enough to where a single neighbor within 500 feet is complaining, it's not a public issue, it's
Well,
somebody
yeah, but I
with
get
a
what Travis is
vendetta.
saying too, is trying to actually apply that. Like, I think it would work, it'd be better, but not in an actual like application sense, you know what I mean? It's a nice idea, but not,
Yes, I mean, twofold, it's the application's difficult, but
Yeah.
then as well as just the whole premise of public nuisance enforcement. You're no longer dealing with it
yeah.
as a public nuisance. Because it's only a private nuisance for those people that are in that vicinity.
Yeah. Yeah, I could let that one go if you guys are okay. with it. I'll just-
I don't want that to go, I thought we already passed
like that one?
Yeah, because
want it to go either
if you think about it, what if, I don't even wanna use the example that I'm thinking of, but yeah, Jeff, you probably know where I'm going with this. You don't want somebody to make your life hell because they have a personal reason to do so and they can do that through ordinance violations, you know, and I don't think that's right when your neighbors are okay with it.
Yeah, well then, like Travis and Josie have said, I mean, then you make the ordinances, you get rid of the things that you'd say are public nuisance, or you clean the ordinances up and allow for more things, or,
I
but that
agree.
that can be a dangerous, not dangerous, but.
But
can
how do you do
be a
that?
slippery slope too, you know, I mean, not everybody wants that, so, how do you do that? Well, we've been doing it for the last 2 years, I mean.
Yeah,
as
there's
much
still,
as- as much
there's
as we
still probably
possibly
hundreds
can.
of
Oh,
ordinances
yeah,
though that people
yeah.
can pick apart at anybody's house,
Yeah,
you know?
Is there a way to, my argument last time, why I was for it, is that we have like 20 different communities in this city. You know, Old Main Street, and then we have the Rum River, you know, the $500,000 houses, and then we have the apartment and condo complex. It's all like different communities, and to have them all have to conform to the same standards or same ordinances, or maybe there's a way to, can you district out the city and have different ordinances for different areas?
Well,
I mean,
that-
do
because
That
some
is
people,
zoning, that's just taking a more, molecular level of zoning, like really creating more residential zoning districts would be the best way to do that. And also through the PUD process. Yes.
You could do it by parcel size. If you had a parcel that, is under, an acre, these are the things that are permitted, and if you're over, and which we've done for other things.
Right.
But you could look at that with a lens of code enforcement.
because I can see how different parts of the city would have higher expectations of what they would want in their neighborhood or what they would like to wake up and see than other parts of the cities, and I don't know
Like
how we can come up with a one thing fits all.
Like Steve's neighborhood versus ours.
Right.
It's totally different, you know,
Right, it's like-
absolutely way different.
yeah, I mean, I think you guys are, like you said, it's just a different way of thinking about how we look at zoning, and, I mean, we really only have, how many residential zones do we have, 2?
We have 4.
Is there 4? What do you have? Do you have like
Yeah.
multi-unit, and then
Yep.
just R1A residential, and then the rural?
So
and-
5, we have rural, R1, single family, R2, low density, or,
Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter, so we already have quite a bit of that, then, yeah.
I just think if you keep whatever you do, you keep it the same for everybody, because it's not gonna change anything. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with having your neighbor make the file a complaint. It's, what that intent is to do, is to keep from somebody driving around a car and say your grass is a ½ inch too high. Trust me, I looked at my neighbor's yard, the guy didn't mow his grass all flipping summer, and it drove me nuts. It ain't mine, I don't care, but it did drive me nuts. I could've called, I could've filed a complaint. I'm not that person. Trust me, he gets enough calls from the same person about the same issues or same things, or same person making numerous different complaints. Sooner or later, he isn't gonna really go look at it. I mean, you can cry wolf one too many times, and then when you really do need it, it's gonna be too bad. So, if you really got somebody that's that petty next to you, I mean, I can complain of a lot of my neighbors. They leave their dogs outside all day long and all night long, and they sit and bark all night. But that's the joys of being in the neighborhood.
I really like the idea of having a foot, like a foot guideline laid out. I mean,
Well, maybe
It-
it's,
it-
maybe instead of like a radius, maybe it's, you know, you
Number of
divide it
houses.
at, you know, like almost what George said, is just the complaint district, sort of. I don't know if you can do that or not, but, you know, if you live in the same neighborhood, you can complain on that person, but not if, I don't know. Because just, then you would at least know, okay, if you're on this side of the street, you're in that, you can complain. And then you don't have to go out
One
with
of
the
the
tape measure
unique
and try to
things
figure out, okay, this guy's 500 feet from the front door, or the back door, or the garage door, or, you know, that,
I'd
because
buy
otherwise, I don't
Lorraine.
know how, you'd never be able to just say, oh, it's a 500-mile, or a 500-foot radius, and your guys are gonna go out and figure that out, no.
And I mean, so the nuisance enforcement is totally different than traditional law enforcement. Granted, it's the same elements of the thing. But the issue you have there is the complainant has a vested interest in the complaint, like inherent vested interest. I hear that all the time. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you following? They don't realize there's a long time frame to send a letter to mow the grass. More so than if you called because you actually, your neighbor's committing a criminal violation. There's more passion for nuisance than there is when they call on their neighbor for committing a crime. Just saying that. Now, conversely, the person that they call upon that you take that nuisance enforcement action on, again, have a more significant response and an emotional response than they would if they were charged with an actual crime. So it's more personable on both sides, not just the person receiving, but the resident that's complaining. And just, so, you know, there are those people that would complain about everything, but the other ones, so if we say, well, your complaint's not valid because you live on that side of the tracks. I mean, we'll say that, but we'll definitely point the finger and say, well, that was, talk to your council members, because we know we're gonna get that passion of a complaint, and then we tell them we won't enforce it. But it's, so it's a little unique, I mean, from both sides, the person that receives it as well as the person that complains.
Yeah, I could see that being
It's
something
really
that
different.
would not make you happy. Yeah, right. I don't know, guys. I think it's, I'm the one that brought it up, but I think it's, I think you're probably better off, but even then, you're still gonna get that same, if you said, okay, let's take the zoning and divide zoning, you're gonna still get, anybody could complain, but at least you could say, well, they live in this area, so that doesn't apply to them. They're allowed to do that there, which would be different than just saying, well, because you live here, you can't complain about that. I guess that's maybe a little bit more tolerable for people, but it still was gonna be a mess. And
yeah, but what's the worst mess? You have, say, someone across town, they're really pissed at you because and they know you have 7 chickens instead of 6. Now all of a sudden they put in a complaint and now you have to lose a chicken. It's like, and then you can play that game back and forth. Now I'm gonna find something wrong with his property and play back and forth, and across town, that doesn't make sense.
But
you know?
then I guess I'm gonna play devil's advocate on that same note. Are you breaking the law? Are you breaking the code by having 6 chickens or 7 chickens and you're only allowed to have 5? So if you are, you're just as much as a fault.
Right.
So that's not an issue. To me, that's a non-issue. If you're breaking code or breaking, that whole issue, maybe you shouldn't have done something to piss your neighbor off. I mean, trust me.
Well, it's not
I
even
know-
the neighbor,
I know
though, it's
there's
someone across
people-
town.
I know there's people that have more dogs than they're supposed to have, but I don't care. They're not bothering me. I don't care. I got better things to do with my time. Seriously. And if you're gonna piss off your neighbors that bad, then maybe you should be the one.
Well,
to
it's
do
not
it.
the neighbors, though, that's the problem.
But I'm
It's-
just saying, if
yeah.
it's the neighbor that's making the complaint, or the person, whatever, if you're that petty, I think you need to really move on with your life. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
There's more things in this world that I gotta worry about than somebody having 6 chickens and they were only allowed 5.
I think Steve should be the code enforcement officer.
But I mean, I'm just
I mean, I
saying
agree,
is,
but-
I'm just saying is,
yeah.
if you start saying that this area is this and this area is that, exactly what he's gonna say is gonna happen. Then it's gonna be calling you, why did you say that I couldn't do this and they can't?
I mean, we do a little bit of that anyway in the zoning that we already have. I mean, we do have different rules for different spaces, and a lot of it's because of, like you said, parcel size and stuff like that, just in that area, probably more to do with, they just happen to be in that area, but yeah, I think I don't know.
It was for years, it was always under when they got a complaint.
And I don't
then
know
it
that
was-
it's that big a problem that we need to spend all night talking about it anyway. I mean,
But
how
I'm just saying,
often,
it was turned into, then we had to
maybe,
hire.
maybe once or
code
twice a year, we get somebody who drives around like that and does it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue every time when it happens to you, no matter who complains. And I feel for that, I understand that, because I hear it all the time, so it's totally different. So whoever gets the recipient of a letter that they're in violation of a nuisance, it's a significant issue to them. But conversely, most of the time, it's a significant issue to the complainant. Don't ask me why, but it is, and then we're getting it from both sides. So it's definitely more of a emotional, passional, like, enforcement piece than it would be just a criminal nature, because everybody understands you commit a crime, there's a consequence, so it's.
Next time the complainant calls you, you just say, hey, I have got a council member for you to talk to. You call Steve Lundin, because he is gonna set you
I
straight.
got business cards.
But like I said, my recommendation would be go through more of the nuisance stuff and get rid of it from that side.
Yeah.
And that's the
Which we
fair
have been
way.
doing, I think,
Yeah, and-
quite a
and you
bit
have
of,
been
so-
picking them apart, and I think
Yeah.
that's fair across the board.
Yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
saying that you have more of a voice than you do because of where your house lays on that street. Yeah.
Can I get code enforcement clarified? So I was under the impression it's complaint-based.
Correct.
Not 100% though. So PD, do they drive around, did you say a couple times a year?
No, I'm just saying, that's not what I meant. No, what I was saying was that sometimes when we have somebody complains about somebody in one neighborhood, right? And that person gets upset, and then they drive around, and then they complain about 10 other people because they got complained about, and because they get mad, and they say, well, I got, my car's up on blocks, and there's 10 other houses that are up, have cars up on blocks, and that's not fair, so I'm gonna go find those 10 other houses, I'm gonna write a list for them and give that to the city. Well, then because somebody complained, then the code enforcement officer has to follow up on it. It's not that he even wanted to, it's just somebody complained about it. Well, the complaint-based is great, it's much better than our guys driving around looking for stuff to cause problems, which they don't do at all, ever. I mean, it's only if somebody complains, but the problem is when somebody complains about someone, then that person goes and complains about 10 other people. That's what we're trying to avoid. And that's what
I
I
get
meant, that's all I meant, yeah, no, I didn't mean that, I just meant that situation happens maybe once or twice a year. It's not all the time, it's not that often, but that's what I was looking for a solution to fix was, somebody had meant, I think it was Steve Westerberg actually, that was talking about it, and he said, I think that makes, and I think it does make sense, but the problem is if you can't, like you said, state statute says you can't reveal who made that complaint. Well, if you just say it's just your neighbors that are bordering the property, well, sometimes it might only be one house that borders that property, and then you know who made the complaint. So and then trying to enforce a radius, I think would be a nightmare, and I think you probably just gotta keep doing what we've been doing and try to make the code, fit what people actually do in reality and practice in their daily lives, and try to, make that match what they're doing and not, try to push them into what we want them to do,
Well, there was some talk about, I don't know if it was the same discussion as before, where you'd have to have 2 complaints. Is that a thing? I remember talking about that. Is that something that we can do? Like, there has to be 2 complaints about a certain issue before it's enforced, or? I thought we talked about that.
We talked about it, I can't remember we went away from that kind of though, I don't remember why. There was a reason.
I think we thought
I think the discussion was because everyone could find someone to be their second person. I think that was the discussion and why that didn't end up going further.
Which is,
Yeah,
Which keeps everybody honest.
I know what Mayor Gordon's saying, and I think maybe the simpler solution is, if you live where I live and I go over to Jeff's neighborhood and I file a complaint that somebody in his neighborhood's doing something because my neighbor called me about it, that's just utterly ridiculous, because I know he didn't come over and complain about me, right? I mean, if it came from your neighborhood, it came from your neighborhood. You gotta be a blooming idiot to think that it's gotta be somebody on the other side of 65. I mean, come on, that's realistic. I understand what he's saying, but I think common sense should rule over that.
And I don't know if you looked at the code enforcement report, we're at the end of the month. So if you looked at the misdemeanor citations issued for nuisance violations for the year, was 0. So,
Yeah, so everything
I
gets
mean-
fixed and, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I don't, do you understand what I was saying, or no?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Well-
You were talking about the guy complain about this and he goes over and their
Yeah,
car's
right.
up on his
Right.
thing. I mean, realistically, if you're driving around town looking for it, you're just looking to stir up stuff.
Well, right, that's what we're trying to fix.
I know, that's why I'm
right.
saying, if it's in your neighborhood, it's in your neighborhood. You don't need to go across town to go find it.
I know, yeah.
So we need to,
That's the
But
whole-
I'm just saying is you limit it. If it's not in your neighborhood, this is my address. I call it Travis. This is my address. But I'm complaining about something that's 20 blocks away from me. It's not even a legitimate
Well, it's-
complaint.
all
but
right.
he still has to execute it. That's what I'm saying. If you have a neighborhood-based complaint system, then somebody across town can't complain about your house.
Like I said, I got better things to do with my time than drive around town looking at other people's garbage, so.
Well, so
Yeah,
are you saying you wanna try some kind of a neighborhood complaint, a neighborhood,
I think we
Complaint.
should just leave it the way it is.
Okay.
He's got 0 complaints happening. It may have happened 1 or 2 times.
yeah, it's not very often, when
No,
it does, it's just,
you can't reinvent the wheel.
okay. So you wanna leave it the way it is,
Just
I
leave
wanna
it
leave
where
it the
it
way it is. Jeff, what do you think?
Leave it.
Leave it, Luke,
I would like to have some sort of creative solution so your neighborhood actually has control.
George?
I'm with Luke.
Well, that should be one of the questions you guys ask the next council member
January 6th.
replacement on is then it'll be a 2-2 tie and, you know.
True.
All right, so I guess for right now, it's 3-2 on that topic, and if you guys wanna, do you wanna keep it on old business so you guys can discuss it in the future still, or?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll keep it on old business, I guess. Ballistic window film.
I was asked again to go get numbers for things for,
This has been on here for a long time, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Why don't we have
Is
any
that-
movement on it? That's my,
Like, can you, if you could start with where are we talking about putting it again?
this is City Hall
Yeah,
over
yeah.
here. I think the new, so the ballistic glass quote that we actually, like before we had the ballpark, we had somebody come out and it was, including both doors, was about $35,000.
Yeah.
And then, so the second option was, is there like a shatter-resistant type film? But the issues are those windows are on tracks and the film has to adhere to, like a solid window frame. So it's not, I mean, they gave us a number on it, but it wouldn't really work because you could shatter the glass and it'd fall, because you have to actually take that laminate up to the window frame itself. If
Sure.
that makes sense, so.
Okay.
would it be possible? I know, Travis, I'm sure you've tried to break the window on a car with window tint, and that slows you down quite a
No,
bit.
That's what, so generically, let me see here.
You need your cheaters?
A 4x4 window with like shatter is about $300 installed, right? Just figure that per square foot. So that's better than window tint because it's like,
Or Pierce rating.
yeah, you'd have to hit it a few times with a hammer to actually get through it. But because those windows are on the tracks in there, it won't, you need the window frame to hold the rigidity to it. So that was kind of what we thought would be another option until they came out and looked at it, so.
For to the left of the doors,
That
the
would
little
work.
glass, that would work?
That would work, yes.
Okay, do you know how much that would be roughly, just to get those covered with ballistic film?
I'm assuming,
Couple $100.
yeah, I got it here, I said to pull it out, it'd be 21 by 42, $278,
Okay,
give or take, so $300 per side light, because there's 4 windows in there, because it's split in the middle.
okay.
I mean, the only other option to think would be, I don't know if you've ever been to, your driver's license up at the county, whatever, outer. So they have, like, your Lexon,
Yep.
which is just, your
Shatterproof.
plastic. And it's here, and it's, it's about that high off the counter, so it doesn't feel like a transaction bank vault window. But that's your physical barrier, right? It's not gonna stop ballistic barrier, but it's gonna stop Matt from jumping over the counter. So, I mean, that would be versus the $35,000 piece of that puzzle. But you'd have to double that up with that security glazing on the side lights as well.
Refresh my memory exactly what we're trying to prevent.
Well, you're either, like we talked about, you're either trying to prevent an actual fortified office from the public, right? So that's,
Coming through both sets of doors?
well, just coming in this door to go see City Hall staff.
Okay.
Right, so right now, there's the big window that's roughly 14 feet by 4, I believe.
Okay, so the window here.
Yeah.
Same discussion we had before. I just wanted to
And we,
clarify that.
we talked about the door side windows too, because that's an entry point as well. I could go over there right now and break it and walk right in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm just bringing back different options that were talked about, you know, and actual numbers on that.
Would this work at all? Locking the first set of doors as you're going out and keeping them locked? And so if somebody comes through, they press a buzzer, who's ever at the window can see the person, who it is, see if they're a threat, and then let them in.
I don't think staff would like that.
Yeah, I don't think that'd work, you know, as far as customer service wide, but still,
Most
Staff-
government, a lot of government agencies I go to, that's exactly how you have to get in. There's almost a majority of them in St. Paul.
They have that at hospitals too, and I hate it.
yeah. And I mean, the
hate
other
it too,
question
but
is,
I mean, just trying to
We don't
save
want people to
money.
hate it.
so how do we'd have an issue, you know, we'd have our one staff that works up there, so we would have to train her to make sure you don't look like you're gonna be a bad guy.
I get it.
You know, I mean,
I get it.
You could see the guy carrying guns into a building, right? But, you know, that would be the challenge, is trying to judge. He looks like a nice guy, you know, I don't know.
I guess I would like to see that we do the ballistic on at least the side windows. I think,
It's security film, so it's not bullet
Security
resistant,
film.
but it can't shatter, yeah.
would window tint be the same thing? Because I'm sure
It's-
the guys here in town would do it.
It's
and-
different.
Okay.
It's a different rating, yeah.
Okay, do you think it's substantially different?
Yeah, if you look, you know, 3M does it, it's, they have 4 and 8 millimeter, 8 mil, 4 and 8 mil. and
Oh, that's
it
pretty
depends on-
thick, okay.
yeah. And it's actually like in theory, like a Lexan sheet-ish on there, same as on your windshield. You know, I mean, I know when you look at them, you can hit them with a hammer a few times before you can actually get through that.
Okay. Well, I guess I would be okay with spending the money to get that done, and then we keep continuing options for the main big open window there. Hopefully come up with something.
Is there like a thing that pulls down and like a overhead?
There's a roll-up door.
Is there a roll-up door on it?
Like that's down right now.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
So
I suppose I could open my eyes once in a while, like when I walk out of this room. But, okay, so we have that. So is there like a panic button that you push and then that automatically comes down?
And then it would slowly.
It's really slow.
Yeah,
come
there's
down.
not a,
So we talked jokingly, if we had like a quick release button, we just have to make sure nobody has their hands under there, right?
And if
Yeah.
they do, they had it coming.
No,
It's like a garage door.
yeah.
well, so it has the buttons up and down, stop, that kind of thing, right? But there is a lever, or a, you know, kind of like on an overhead garage door,
A manual
Oh, yeah.
release,
right? There is
Yeah.
that, but it's not,
accessible.
it's not accessible, and I think, I would bet that I would be surprised if any of my staff could actually reach it. And furthermore, we've never tested that to see if it would actually drop fast. You know, none of those things. Now, I've always told my staff, if you're really in a bind and you can hit that, please do and get that out, but
Would it be
that's
helpful?
not necessarily the most comforting plan, I
Would it-
guess. But
Would it be helpful if we put a lever down below with a stainless steel cable attached to that, so you just have a lower pull handle?
yeah, I think if we were gonna do something like that, I'd want,
And that's
I'd
simple.
want my staff I would want it to be tested so my staff knew what would happen definitively.
Sure.
Like, is this thing coming down in a quarter second, or is it,
Or do you gotta
when
pull
it comes
on
down,
it?
is it gonna come off the tracks and smash the glass? I don't know.
I mean, I think that's that's a lot to ask for your staff under a high-stress scenario to actually be able to cognitively reason that this is a threat, this person's coming over the counter. I should probably, by that time, I would say, majority of the time, that wouldn't even be a viable.
Okay, just not enough
Just-
time.
Not enough time, but with that, no, with ours, the law enforcement, just different perspectives. I mean, that's a lot to ask from just your normal office staff worker to have that reasoning and ability to function under high-stress scenario.
But would it make them feel better? That's the whole point of it, I think.
I don't know if that's the.
I think
Well, that's
it's
not the whole point, but
I don't
that's,
think.
that's a big point of it, is to make, you feel like you have some sort of option and power to fight back.
I think you'd
somebody.
have to, I think you'd have to get the company that services that roll-up door to see if there's something they can do with it. That would be your best bet. They'll know what they can and can't do with that.
Yeah, I mean,
If there's a
I'm not-
quick release mechanism that they can put on it, that it isn't gonna break the counter right off the wall, I mean, that's a discussion that they should have moving forward with that company.
I mean, and a lot of when at least once a year, we're gonna have that conversation with my staff. A big chunk of that is just trying to make them feel better about it.
Right.
I mean, somebody walks through loaded to the nines, I cannot possibly tell you that Anna is going to not just freeze. Or just turn around and not even say a word, just panic and
Oh, this all started from that creep we had in here,
He moved,
did he?
yeah.
But, I
mean,
mean,
the
I'm
other
watching that video on Facebook, I thought to myself, yeah, that does not make me feel good.
I haven't got numbers on, like, the physical barrier without the ballistic piece of it. I mean, that's the other option to look at too. Like, just, so like in that case, that there is, I mean, whether it comes to even, like in law enforcement, we're looking, first thing we want to conceal, right? That means a bullet will go through, but they can't see you. So same concept. That's your first adversity to a threat, is make the physical barrier. Not saying you can't get through it, but that's gonna give the reaction, the time to do something else, to barricade somebody else. So that'd be your first step. Then your second step, obviously, would be fortify, right? You're fortified so somebody can't shoot in and get in. Those are two different things, so at least the first step is better than no step. So I think that's another option I can try to look into as well.
I think we're more on the first step. Would it be possible to get that ballistic film on the windows that's only one way, see out? Because I don't think people need to see in through. And you talked about a physical barrier not allowing them to see.
Yep.
It's nice for a city staff to be able to see out, because then when they're leaving, they can see out, but I don't think anybody needs to see in there. Would it be possible to get that ballistic film with
Assuming it would, you'd
a
have to just,
mirror?
the ballistic film doesn't come tinted, but maybe they could do both sides of the glass, right? Yeah.
We have to figure out a way to fix both sides of it, because when a community walks into City Hall, you want it to feel as welcoming as possible and accessible. And there has to be a better solution to this.
Well, have you
What are
been,
other cities doing? Do other cities have bulletproof
so
glass?
Cambridge did that. I haven't been to their new city hall, but supposedly that's what they approved that. That was over a year ago, I think, over a year ago, so that'd be interesting. Like I said, the other one that I just was at was where your driver's license renewed at the courthouse, down the lower level down there, and that, I thought, you can take a look for your own recommendation, doesn't have that ballistic glass bank teller feel, just how they have it laid out there, but it accomplishes the same thing. I mean, you'd have to be pretty skinny, to shimmy your way through there, but you're stopping that person from coming through that counter. So that'd be one, if you ever get up there, to take a look at, is that lower level where your driver's license renewed. It accomplishes it, but it doesn't feel like it's a barrier.
Can we get a cost estimate on something like that here?
I can. Yeah.
Okay.
That was what I was saying, that's the next step. If you'd like, we can look at that.
And I would just add to George's comments, it's not been my experience here in Isani, but when I was in Granite, I got death threats. I could count on at least one death threat a year minimum. And that was standard practice. Like, I knew, and my chief knew that when I called him, I was probably calling him for that reason. And he would say, "Who is it?" And I would say, "Well, it was so-and-so." All right, I'll go pay him a visit. And that's not been my experience here, but that's super not fun.
And I can think of, the local violent firearm encounters with municipalities, the one in Little Falls and then the one down in the cities that,
New Hope.
New Hope, were both zoning issues, in essence. Land use, zoning issues. And that was the driving factor for both of them.
Well, yeah, I think get a price on that, and then you guys liking the idea about the well, not ballistic, but shatterproof, it's not even really tint, is it? Instead, it's like a,
They refer to it as a safety and security film.
okay.
Well, I think we could get, even if they don't have a reflective option or something where you can only see one side in, one side out, I think there's probably a tint shop in town that would be able to provide a mirror tint, so that way people can't see, like in a situation, you know, if they can see where you are back there, it makes it more susceptible, but if it's mirrored off, I always thought it was weird that that was a glass window there in the first place, like, why do people need to see in right there?
And that was kind of the attempt here was to make it so even though you can with the lights on in here, but we tried to make the lights, so that was in the frosted windows down here is trying to, for that reason, it's one step in the right direction.
All right. Well, yeah, so I think it sounds like on the doors, probably could go ahead and get it scheduled and move forward with it, I guess, and, or I don't know if that has to come to council, but,
Come back to council
or you
with.
wanna wait until we have the whole package together?
No, I think if we just get a for sure price on stuff and see a couple different options, I can reach out to the tint shops in town too and see, you know, if that's something they can install, you know, maybe someone would do it for cheaper, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, from a budget perspective, I will let the council know if we need to have a budget amendment on that. We'll see how the numbers pan out, but potentially, I'm thinking it's small enough amount, without knowing current account balances off the top of my head, it's at least possible. There's,
Less than you'd like it to be.
well, I mean, anytime it's more than free, that's probably not ideal, but.
All right. Okay, well, I think that's enough direction on that. Building inspection fee schedule updates. Sounded like we had a good conversation with Rum River, huh?
Yes, we met with Andy Schrader from River Consultants after the December 3rd meeting and the council recommendation to counter their original fee schedule. And so they did agree to all of the recommended, or what you guys recommended and wanted us to negotiate for the 2025 year. So
All right.
the changes are here in the packet, and if you guys don't have any more changes to them, we'll bring it forth to the January 6th meeting.
Satisfied with that?
I wish we could do that negotiation tactic for everything that we hire out for the city, all the projects, everything, because I know they've always come in at a higher bid, you know, and then you negotiate from that, but it's, the way we do it doesn't allow for that on most things, so I don't know how we fix that, but I think that's gonna be a battle that we continue on with that. City's gotta have negotiation power on these contracts with things.
Well, in that particular situation, we've got, because you could always hire your own person, you've got a little different leverage that you don't, normally you would not have, you know, and I think they understand where we're at, and I think they're good to work with too. I think that's a big part of it too, and I think we made it a fair offer that they could live with and that satisfied what we were trying to accomplish. So I definitely appreciate the work they do, and yeah, that's great.
I'm gonna bring up one quick thing. Last week, I was in training all last week. I was in that class with a gentleman from Granite Falls, and he knows Mr. Becker. He said, "You stole Mr. Becker." He said, you had that city, he had that city firing on all 8 cylinders, and then he went to apply as their city administrator, and it didn't go through, and then next thing you know, they were not taking his recommendations, and that gentleman told me right now that the city is is a shithole of a shithole, because they have no money. Their taxes are increasing, and if they would have done what Mr. Becker said, they wouldn't be in the position they're in. So I'm just letting you know, I heard that from a guy I never met in my entire life. And I just happened to see that. And I wanted to bring it to all your attention to realize what Mr. Becker actually really does here. So, there's nothing else?
I had a few things.
Let's hear it, we got 6 minutes.
You got 6
If you guys
minutes.
don't mind, if you,
You got 6 minutes,
all
and
right.
I'm walking out
all
the
right,
door.
I'm gonna start real quick. The flagpole by the amphitheater, was upset because there was no flag on it, and they had asked me about it. I went through all my old emails today trying to hurry up, and I'll have some things I wanna ask you guys about tomorrow probably too, but is there a flag on there? I didn't drive by
There's
it.
not a flag on there, but we have talked about putting flags up at least, because it has to be lit, so it doesn't have lighting on
Okay.
it. If we want to leave it up all the time like our other flags, but we have talked about at least doing it for the 4th of July and other events at the amphitheater when
Okay.
we're hosting them.
It has to be lit?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not
Why?
talking about the bluebird flag.
Yeah.
Well, some of the flags behind, they're like by the amphitheater sort of, right?
There's one right next to the amphitheater that is there for Illuminate Isani for the Christmas tree, but yes.
Oh, okay.
We have
Gotcha.
talked about
Flags have to be
putting-
lit, even at your own house.
Yes.
Why?
So- In the evening.
That's
So yes, for events, we
where it's
have,
been.
Matt and I have had this discussion, and so next summer it is our plan to have it.
Look it up.
There for
Google
the
it.
entire season.
And that's a
For
state
the
statute?
events.
No, federal statute.
Until we get approval to add lighting to it.
Well, do they have like solar lights that will satisfy that requirement?
I'm sure
Yeah.
they do.
Mine do have solar lights
Yeah.
on mine.
Well, can we do something about that? You guys on board with that? I can't imagine that's extremely expensive, is it? Yeah.
Let's throw the old state flag up, eh?
I bought mine on Amazon for like $50 and it's 3 years old and still shines that flag up bright every night.
Yep. It's a federal statute that you have to have.
That's
it
It
right.
is,
Crazy.
it is one flagpole, so just one flagpole that's next to the amphitheater. So which flag would you like to see there?
American flag.
Okay, that's what I,
Yep.
and then we'll light it, so we'll look into solar lighting for it, and then that will be added to our flag list.
Next on the agenda.
Okay.
We got 4 more minutes.
Easy, easy, no problem, okay. How about, somebody wanted Christmas decorations on 5 and Main Street, and I think we do some, don't we, or no? I know we do stuff for like Memorial Day and 4th of July, I think maybe, and,
Are you meaning by the hotel?
no, I think they just want, like, you know how some cities have like the light poles will have, lighting on them kind of, and,
Like Christmas lights
yeah,
wrapped
they'll
around
have like a
poles.
They used to
snowflake.
do that, they used to do that in the city years and years and years ago.
Yep.
It disappeared a long time ago.
City staff has discussed, we do the light poles into the park, so along First Avenue. And
Yeah.
so we've talked about doing the similar thing along Main Street with the snowflakes on our flag poles here as well.
You know how much those are, and,
We actually used snowflakes and then made them ourselves, so I would say $75 to $100 a piece.
okay.
I know my wife said the same thing. She wished they would have something on the streetlights in town.
Yeah.
But it is what,
Doesn't have to be every light, but I mean,
it's just something. I think
If we
a
are a
lot of
city where
cities
you
that do
gotta-
it,
yeah.
a lot of cities that do it, and I think a lot of people appreciate it.
But it is another expense.
it's another expense, and it's
But
more.
but it's
more
something
work-
that your
more
taxpayers
work for-
want.
More work for our guys too.
And storage, just. we're
And more storage.
Travis got plenty of space.
Yeah, Travis has plenty of space.
I'd like to see bigger flags on those poles in the summertime. Those flags are really small compared to most other cities.
Yeah, but I think there's enough of them that you see them and the impact is had.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the impact is still had and it doesn't impair any vision or, I don't know, cost more money.
Just thought I'd
Okay.
throw it out there.
All right, well, do you want to add that to more discussion in the future?
Yes.
Or yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so if we could add that to committee of the whole for next month, maybe? I'm gonna come to your guys' meetings and just sit right there. Sit there. All right, well, that was a request that I had from somebody at a street dance, and so that I told them I'd bring it up. It's been a little while, but, what do I want to say for the last, Illuminate Isani volunteers for this weekend. Did you guys find somebody, or you still need help, or?
Could still use some on the 21st.
On the
just
21st.
a couple,
Is that Saturday?
yes.
You guys want to do it?
My
Council?
daughter's-
I
it's my
won't be
daughter's
able to.
birthday.
What is-
Seriously, I'm
Where's
having,
your spirit?
I have my whole flipping family, we can't do Christmas on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. We gotta do it 3 weeks in a row.
What is volunteering? What do you need for that as far as volunteering, I guess?
We have volunteers who hand out popcorn and marshmallows and ornaments and just keep the Santa line going, make sure the fire pits are lit. The hours are generally 4:30 to 9:15-ish. And we'll take different shifts too. Some groups split into shifts.
Okay, I'd be willing to do it. So a city council night.
I'll do it.
You will? I mean, I would, but I don't, yeah,
Your kid's birthday, right?
yeah. I think I've got people coming over, I don't know.
If there's 3 of you, we will have to post it, so we'll have to know.
Yeah.
I probably.
There'll be
could
at
not.
least 3, so you're gonna have to post it
Okay.
either way.
Post it.
Just making sure.
George, you
Just
said you would be able to, or?
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, so it'll be at least 3.
I might be about a half hour late because I'm going fishing. That's this Saturday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll be off the lake by dark, so.
okay. All right, awesome. Well, so that hopefully will help 3 people. I don't know.
I'll be there.
You'll be
so.
Okay. Well, I got 2 things left, real quick. So Nate Boostrom had asked me, his daughter was in the ambassador program for Cambridge, I think it was, and he said, or maybe it was Isani. But anyway, he said the Cambridge city contributes or somehow pays for the ambassador program within the city there. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but I just was curious if, first off, if there was any, if we even can do that, which I don't know about, and then if we can, is that something that we'd be interested in, I guess, but,
So, yes, you can.
okay.
You would, ideally, the council would define, or declare a broadly felt public good, right?
I mean, they are the Isani ambassador, so I mean,
And that is the prerogative of the council. In Isani, we had lots of donations going out to lots of different organizations within the community. All I would warn is that in my experience is, just, once you start down that path,
Everybody comes.
you will have other organizations that come and ask, and you're gonna have to either accept that you're gonna say yes across the board, or you're gonna draw a line, and wherever you draw that line, I can promise you, someone's going to be upset.
Well, I can tell you, my sister was an ambassador, and money never seemed to be an issue.
okay.
And she was an Isani ambassador, and I've never heard money talk once, so I don't know if they, I think they must do a good job on their own.
Okay.
And if they haven't, I mean, or if they don't, we've never heard about it, so. I'd rather not spend the money, and I'm pro ambassador program 100%, but
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I wouldn't do it.
Skip it for now? Okay, skip it. All right, so that one we've talked about, and then the last one, I saved this one, I'm trying to remember who asked me about it. I think it was at the ribbon cutting for the new police department building. Why can't we have the address 911 on the police building? And somebody had asked me about that. It was one of the officers, I just cannot remember who it was, to give them the credit for that great idea, but I thought it was a good idea. Is there already a 911 East Dual? And I mean, I don't know if it even works with how it should really fit, but I mean, it was a thought that I thought was kind of,
We do have an addressing policy, so I don't know if it fits within that. What is the address?
whew. You have a typo on accident?
I'm gonna tell you what's
Wink,
gonna, I'm gonna tell you how that's gonna play. If you remember how County Road 5 out here was renamed to Heritage Boulevard, because there was an address that was the same over there as there was one in town, and there was another address on that side of town. And when somebody was hurt, or they needed to have an ambulance service, they never got there when they should have, because they were going to the other 2 addresses before they went to the correct one. That's why Heritage Boulevard was changed. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I don't think it's a good thing to do.
Well, right now, Google doesn't even take you to the right building, so, I mean, if you type in police department, it still takes you to the damn old building, no matter how many times we try to
And
switch
that's,
that.
and I've seen that with Google
Yeah.
on things that haven't been around for 5 years. So it's how often do they update? That's how that's gonna be. I mean, if you pull Google Earth right now and you looked at your property, it was probably from 5 years ago. It hasn't, I've looked at mine, I pull it up a couple times a year,
Curiosity of,
and it's still, my house still isn't there. So that's Google for you. But I would strongly suggest against doing that, because that's, could end up being a confusion for something where it's an actual emergency.
Is there a 911 address on that street?
I have no idea.
The next address on the street is 917, and that's on the corner.
oh, perfect, it's still in succession, it doesn't even mess up where you're gonna go.
I believe
and it's
if you
still an odd number.
If you contact the post office, they may be able to change their address to 911.
I actually am the address person for the city,
Okay,
so,
well,
um,
change it.
I do generally discuss this with emergency services at the county, so we have to figure out with them and the post office. So those are my 2 main,
Okay.
people that I have to double check with. But I can double check with them and see what they say. And if it's possible, which I think it could be, then I'll make the change and let you know.
All right.
I have a question on that real quick. Do we have any progress on signs? Have we reached out to anybody to get sign information or anything yet?
For the building?
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think John was getting, had some quotes in. We're just waiting on a couple other ones.
And we had already approved a certain dollar amount, didn't we?
Yeah,
Okay.
we did.
So you're good
it's
to go.
covered. We're just trying to, yeah, get the right, because we want to make sure that they actually look good too,
Right.
so,
Okay.
yeah.
Just,
Because we got the flagpole in, if you can tell, with the light wired into the building, so,
You got a flag on there?
yeah.
um,
Yeah, that was, Public Works did a good job putting that in with their ball.
other considerations for the address, is there anything else you need to change? Like if we're changing the address, business cards, all of those things?
I mean, if we
don't
change
know
the
what you
address,
have.
we just change as needed, because I think if you said Isani Police Department 901, it'd show up at the same spot, so we wouldn't, as we needed new business cards, or as we, you know what I mean, change that stuff out.
Slowly change.
Yeah, it would be the same spot numerically.
Yeah, I mean, same thing we've done with actually the business cards now, we didn't get new business cards for everybody, because
Just wait till you need them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're still in the city of Isani, you can find us, even if the address is the wrong address on
Yeah.
Fourth Avenue, so.
Are you okay with that? I guess we should ask you.
No, I think it's kind of a neat idea, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was find out who it was, because I just can't remember who
Because
told
it's
me that.
close enough, 901, 911.
Yeah.
It's kind of good.
Yeah.
Wonder if any other, police departments have a 911 address, huh?
I don't know. All right, that's all I had. I mean, I got a whole bunch of other things, but I'll talk with you guys and yeah, I'll come in for public comment, yeah. All right.
Motion
Anything
to
else?
adjourn.
Any other, yeah, all right, motion to adjourn from Councilman Lundin.
You take the second.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned.
I think it was appropriate, you got the last one.